AI and ML algorithms are great for optimizing processes. They take the data, they train on that data, and they become smart about optimizing that process.
Correct.
But they don't innovate. This is where you need to unleash the human creativity. This is where design thinking comes in, where I can actually bring in humans and actually innovate. Instead of paving the cow path, instead of optimizing the cow path, I want to reinvent it. And so when you bring together a culture of continuous learning and adapting with AI and ML, with a culture of continuous adapting humans with design thinking, you create this synergy that is unstoppable.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Engatica interview series. I'm your host, Kimberly, and we're really glad to have you join us today. We have with us a very special guest. We have BILL SCHMARZO, the Chief Technology Officer at Big Data Practice of the EMP Global Service. Welcome to the show, Bill. We're so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, Kim. I'm looking forward to the conversation as well. It should be fun.
It definitely should be. But before that, let me tell you what the Engatica interview series is. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world, a platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come be a part of our community where we learn, share, and grow together. So diving into my first question for you, Bill, how do you bring a business-first approach to helping organizations leverage advanced analytics and data science to uncover the customer, product, and operational insights buried in the organization's data that powers digital transformation?
Wow, that's a long question. So when I talk to customers, and my primary conversations nowadays are with chief data officers, the conversation always ends up coming back to how do we create value from our data? There's a lot of other things that sort of happen in that conversation, but it really is about the chief data officer has been chartered with unleashing the business value of their data. And so if you're going to have that conversation, you can't start by talking about data. You got to talk about value. And so a lot of the conversations I have in the workshops I run several workshops with a large number of customers, a variety of customers. And we start by understanding, how does your organization create value? What are your organization's value creation processes and initiatives? What are the KPIs and metrics against which you're going to measure that value creation effectiveness? And then who are the stakeholders who need to be involved in that process, and what are their ideal outcomes, and what are the KPIs and metrics that they use to measure value creation effectiveness? So there needs to be a very holistic discussion up front to really understand how the organization creates value. And then once you've done that, now you have the basis for figuring out, well, what data do I need to support those value creation processes? What analytics do I need to have? What's my infrastructure look like, support that? And so what we see happening is that organizations end up taking a very incremental use case by use case approach, where each use case is focused on one of these value creation processes, and they're using this use case approach to build out their data and analytic capabilities. They're not building the data lake or data lake house and putting 35 data sets in it and hoping that business users come up and get value because they've tried that and all they've gotten have been crickets. Let's be very focused. Let's understand how the organization creates value, and let's make sure we're providing the guardrails around the data and analytics necessary to make sure we drive and support that value creation process.
Right, that is really, really interesting. I am very curious to know about the flywheel behind you on the board. Could you just explain that to the audience?
Yeah, so a lot of conversations I mentioned before with CDOs and CIOs as well really is around this data-driven value creation flywheel, right? Organizations want to be data-driven, but data-driven by itself doesn't make any sense if you don't have a value creation process around it. So I'm going to stand up and show off Patty, I'm wearing my University of College Cork uniform jersey you bought for me, so my sweatshirt, so I love it. Anyway, the conversation I have with customers starts around here, understanding how they realize and create value, right? How you drive business innovation. Now, like I said before, once you've defined that, I can then propagate into figuring out, well, what data and what analytics do I need to support that? What AI models, what data science, what ML models that helps me drive that? How do I uncover the customer, product, service, and operational insights, those predicted behavioral performance propensities that I can use to drive my value realization? But as we know, garbage in, garbage out. If I don't have a solid data management strategy, if I'm not enriching my data, make it easily accessible, make it easy for exploration, experimentation, I can't get what I need here. So this flywheel, while it starts here, it needs to figure out, how do I activate the insights buried in my data, and how do I build a platform that's geared not just for storing data, but geared for activated data for this. And of course, this process circles around. It's an iterative process. What the goal here is to create a culture, sort of a value-driven culture that can continuously learn and adapt. And every time you cycle through this process, this continuous learning process, you seek to become, 1% more effective in the models you're building, and the decisions you're delivering, and the value you're creating. And the beauty of this thing is that it works. It's all about unleashing the economic value of your data. Of course, that's the title of my fourth book, and this is what CDOs want to do. But if you start down here, then you're trying to hope that I can give my data science team the data it needs, and they're hoping they're going to find insights that's going to drive value. Hope is not a business strategy unless you're in the cosmetics industry, right? So we want to be very focused. We cheat. We cheat by understanding and clarifying, identify, validate value, and prioritize their value creation processes, and then use that to drive this entire cycle.
That is a really nice way to put it in a flowchart. Would you have a blog? You said that this is a part of your book, so maybe we could just link the book below in the description, so we know where we can, direct to have more insights on this.
Yeah, I'll provide the link to there's a blog series that talks about this, and the book that really goes into details regarding economic value data. And let me just riff on that for a second. I've been in this industry a really long time, well over 40 years. I started when I was 10. So, and the struggle we've always had in this industry for people who've been in a long time is that business users, business stakeholders don't respect data. They think it's something that IT does. They think it's a byproduct of the business. There's been really no value attributed to data. But now we're starting to see this change. And when we can start talking about data as not a technology asset, not data as a byproduct of the business, but data as an economic asset, I now have people's attention. When I walk into a C-suite and talk to a CEO about the economics of their data, I've got their attention. If I come in and talk to them about data management, governance, and things like that, metadata management, they fall asleep. But if you start talking about economics, which economics is about, it's about the study, the knowledge of value creation, they're all in. So this whole conversation, if we want to have success creating this, needs to start by understanding that data is a unique economic asset. But it's very unique. Data never wears out. Data never depletes. The same data set, if shareable, can be used across an unlimited number of use cases at zero marginal cost. It's a game changer. And the sad fact is only a handful of companies have really cracked the code on this. And by the way, they don't talk about it. So we are going to talk about it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Bill, for actually throwing light on this and actually, smoothing down this process for us. Can you tell us about the rapid exploration, rapid testing, failure empowering, continuously learning data science development methodology?
Yes. How to teach people to think like a data scientist. So one of the ways that I've worked to try to demystify data science is to show how anybody can learn to think like a data scientist, but it requires a different mindset. Some of the things you mentioned, for example, data science is a failure-driven approach. You don't know if your model's good enough until you've tried and failed many, many times. How do you embrace a culture where you learn through failure, you learn through experimentation, you learn through trying? One of the things that I've coupled with the art of thinking like a data science methodology that I have, which by the way is my book number 3, sorry about that, is that I've blended design thinking with data science. Design thinking is a methodology, it's a mindset that tries to unleash the creative thinking of everybody in the organization. And it isn't just a data scientist. The people who have the best idea about what variables and metrics might be better predictors of performance, the people who are key for driving the feature engineering process here aren't the data scientists. They're the people at the front lines of the organization, the people who are working with the customers or are working with the operations. And how do you unleash their greatness to have them bring forth their ideas that might make for better ideas, right? Might is a very powerful thing, because if an organization, we've got to basically respect that all ideas are worthy of consideration, so that we nurture this ideation culture. By the way, all ideas that are worthy of consideration doesn't mean all the ideas are worth a dang, right? Some ideas really suck, but if you don't have enough might moments, you'll never have any breakthrough moments. And so you've got to create this culture.
Yeah.
And that's what liberates the data science process and really explodes over here in value creation.
Right. Thank you so much for really explaining that to us. What are your disciplines to drive organizational empowerment and digital transformation? You've kind of explained it with your flywheel on board. Could you just pin down some disciplines for us to follow?
Yeah, there's 3 things. So one of the classes I teach is about how to future-proof your career. I think there's 3 skill sets that every individual needs to master, and 3 skill sets that every organization needs to nurture. First off, we need to understand economics, some basic economics about how do organizations create value. We need to understand some very basic principles, and there are some traditional economic concepts, and there's a whole bunch of new ones that I've uncovered in some of my books on some data economic concepts. So number 1, understand economics, which is about the knowledge, the discipline of value creation. Number 2, learn to think like a data scientist. Learn to understand, not be afraid of AI and ML models, but understand them enough that you know what you can do with them. You don't need to be able to build a neural network, but you should be able to understand what you can do with them and what's the realm of what's possible. So how do you take and demystify data science and make it available to make everybody a citizen of data science, right? The third thing, design thinking, which has 2 aspects. Number 1, design thinking is really tied to economics in the sense that it's understanding your customer journey, what their intentions are, and how do they create value. So design thinking has a bunch of tools and techniques to help you really get into understanding your customer's journey and how they create value. But design thinking has a second component, which I talked about earlier, this idea liberation. How do you unleash the greatness of everyone in your organization? We've got valuable people in your organization. How do you bring them into the process? Because you never know who might have the best idea.
Right. Thank you so much, Bill. This is really, really insightful. Are there any other sound bites that you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, let me finish this with this one sound bite, one point. AI and ML algorithms are great for optimizing processes. They take the data, they train on that data, and they become smart about optimizing that process. But they don't innovate. This is where you need to unleash the human creativity. This is where design thinking comes in, where I can actually bring in humans and actually innovate. Instead of paving the cow path, instead of optimizing the cow path, I want to reinvent it. And so when you bring together a culture of continuous learning and adapting with AI and ML, with a culture of continuous adapting humans with design thinking, you create this synergy that is unstoppable for organizations. No problem is too big because you can learn your way around any kind of, in fact, every problem is a new learning opportunity. And so the last point is that in today's knowledge-based industries, the economies of learning are more powerful than economies of scale.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Kimberly. And again, shout out to Patty and my UCC folks. I was there a couple of weeks ago doing a lecture, so they rewarded me with a very cool a hoodie.
It is a very cool hoodie. It's my favorite color too.
I love it. All right, thanks, Kim.
Thank you so much. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon so you get access to exclusive content coming from thought leaders from around the world. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you with a new expert soon.